It's Florida Mustang Mike down here in South Florida. Give me a little update as to what's going on with my Mustang. As you noticed, I've got a new YouTube channel name so everybody knows who I am, because nobody recognized the other one that I had on there before. Got the Mustang down here sitting in the driveway, getting ready to cut some pieces off of it and do some replacements. Thanks to my friend Pete up at Southwest Rod and Custom, who gave me some good information about welding, because I'm not a welder, never welded before other than the floorboards of this car with a flux welder, which really doesn't work very well, which I described in my last video. So now I have a tank of argon gas, which works much better on the welder. I'm getting some really beautiful welds on the test piece that I was welding on it, and I'm getting ready to weld the first panel on the car with the gas this weekend. First panel going on is going to be on the passenger side, right behind the back tire. This is what the panel looks like here. As you see here, this is the wheel well flange, and it goes around it, which looks really nice, and it matches the other one perfectly. Goes all the way up to the back here, which butts right up to the rear of the car where the taillight panel is at. So everything on here looks good. No dents or dings in the panel. Nice panel, came from CJ Pony Parts. All the part numbers and stuff are on it right here. The CJ Pony Parts price tag and everything on it right there. Got a lot of parts from CJ Pony Parts for this car. I've replaced the fuel pump, which has a filter on it, by the way, which was a nice addition. The original one didn't have that. Replaced rebuilt the carburetor, replaced the points and condenser. Anybody remember how to do that? I had to actually go to YouTube and look it up because I forgot. It's been so long since I've done it. So we got new points in the condenser, new distributor cap, new wires, new plugs, new oil. We've got new fuel lines, new brake lines. Got the V8 suspension on the car. I went from the 4-lug to the 5-lug suspension on it now. I've got the V8 front end and springs on it. Didn't change the 6-cylinder springs on the rear end. I just put the new 5-lug rear end on it. I'm probably going to have to do that one, but the ones at the junkyard where I picked up all the suspension parts weren't in that great a shape, so I opted to leave the 6-cylinder ones on there for now. Put hijacker air shocks on it, which was definitely a necessity because I don't know if you know Mustangs very well, but they squat in the butt. Basically, they drag ass. So I put air shocks on it. That helped a little bit, although I'm going to have to split them and do them independently so I can get the rear end even, because for some reason it likes to sag on the passenger side. Here's a picture from the last video. I've done a little bit of work since then. So you're going to see another one coming up here in just a second. In this video here, now you can see where I've sanded down and got the rust exposed, where we can see actually assess what the panel looks like. We're going to dig a little bit deeper into this panel as I cut it off here, coming up in a second. Now here's a video of just how extensive the rust was on just this one panel. And as you can see, that it's actually the original fender that was on the car. It just rusted out because I got some rust spots in it, and apparently the body guy that worked on it last time just bondoed over the rust rather than taking the time to repair it properly. And you know, whenever you cover rust with Bondo, of course your rust is going to continue to rust because you've now trapped all the moisture and contaminants under it. So it rusted through to the wheelhouse. As you can see me stick my finger in the wheelhouse right there. And then this is all exposed to the drop-off in the trunk. Now here's where I cut the panel off, and this is the rust that was exposed in the drop-off. Now I thought that drop-off was in pretty good shape, but apparently it wasn't. So that's a little bit more stuff we got to do. Moving on here, now we got the wheelhouse. As you can see, I cut a piece out of the wheelhouse there in the picture that you see. And I've taken the piece that's come out of that to fabricate another piece that's going to have to be welded in there to replace it. Now here's the piece that came out of it, and this is the piece here that I'm getting ready to finish fabricating so that I can weld into the spot. And the only way that I could see to fabricate that piece was to cut it and then to piece it together and to bang on it with a hammer and a dolly. So it's not quite done yet, and it's a little bit bigger than the actual piece, so I want to fit it into the car before I do the actual welding on the cuts on it. And then I'm going to have to fabricate the lip on it where the patch is going to have to weld into it right below where it's at. Hopefully I can do a pretty good job on this one. I've never actually fabricated a piece of metal before, but I've taken a lot of time to watch videos on YouTube of people that have done it. So that's pretty much where I'm at right now. Moving on, this is what's coming up. This is the rear taillight panel where you can see the rust on that one. and I've got a new taillight panel for it to replace it, so that's going to be coming up in a future video. But you see all the rust that's on that corner there. It's going to click here in a second to the center of the taillight panel, closer to the right side, and you're going to see a lot more rust on it. Now this is where the seam there is where they replaced the rear end on it, on the left clip on it, which is the damage that's on the quarter panel is going to come up here in a second. And as you see all that rust there, a lot of that is in the trunk pan, and I'm going to have to fabricate some patches for that. Rather than replace the whole trunk pan, which I really should do, I'm going to try and fabricate patches for it so I can get the car on the road a little bit quicker. It's not going to be a show car. It's just, I just don't have the money to do that with it. So if I can patch it up on the inside to where it looks presentable, I think it's going to be a nice drivable car. And this is where the other side of it was, where they replaced that quarter. You see where they welded on the rear taillight panel. This is where they welded up in the front. And I think this clip came off of a 64.5, and my car is actually a 65 because it is a ½ inch short in the back. And here's the rest that's underneath of the behind the driver's side door at the bottom right above the kick panel. Now I've since cut that out, which you're going to see pictures coming up here, where I cut that piece out, and I cut out over the wheel well because I really wanted to see what that wheelhouse looks like, because when I replace this quarter panel, I want to know what I've got to face in relationship to that wheelhouse, because that wheelhouse may need some work. Although looking at it from the cutout there, it's in pretty good shape. I think I'm just going to have to prime it, and there may be a small patch in there I may need to do, but hopefully everything will come out okay with that one. And that's where the Mustang's at as of now. So hopefully this weekend we'll be putting some weld-through primer on the other side, and getting ready to weld in those pieces so we can get that side done and move on to what's coming up next. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned. You're going to see more to come on this car.